The mining outpost on the edge of space was a quiet place. Most days felt the same. Aaron, a human worker, lived alone among metal halls, storage crates, and the low hum of power generators. He was used to silence. He worked with machines, checked fuel levels, repaired equipment, and waited for cargo ships to visit once every few weeks. His life was simple, steady, and uneventful. But that day, something strange happened. It began when Aaron heard a faint sound while checking storage bay 4. It was not the usual creak of the floor or hiss of air vents. It was soft, quick, almost like a tiny breath. Aaron froze and listened. The sound came again, from a large crate that had arrived a few days earlier. He remembered the cargo ship dropping it off. The container had been damaged during transport, one corner bent inward. Aaron had planned to check it later, but he had not expected anything alive inside. He stepped closer. The sound stopped. Aaron knelt down and pressed his hand on the cold surface of the crate. "Hello," he said softly, though he did not expect an answer. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, the crate shivered slightly. Something inside shifted. Aaron slowly pulled a crowbar from his tool belt and worked the bent corner open. The metal screeched as it gave way. He leaned forward, peering into the shadow. Two glowing silver eyes stared back at him. Aaron almost dropped his tool. Inside the crate, crouched against the wall, was a small figure. It was no taller than his knee, thin and delicate, with pale skin that shimmered faintly under the dim light. Long strands of hair clung to her face, and she trembled as though she were made of fragile glass. Aaron blinked. "A child," he whispered, though he knew she was not human. The small creature gasped and pressed herself tighter against the wall of the crate. Her hands were tiny, her fingers tipped with faintly glowing lines. She made a sound, half a word, broken and hard to understand. Her voice shook with fear. Aaron raised both hands, showing he carried no weapon. "It's all right," he said calmly. "I will not hurt you." But the alien girl did not believe him. Her silver eyes widened, and she shook her head quickly. She tried to form words again. This time Aaron caught fragments. "Human, eat, small, me." Aaron's heart sank. She thought he wanted to eat her. He lowered the crowbar to the floor and slid it away from himself. He took a slow step back from the crate. "No," he said firmly but gently. "I do not eat you. I do not hurt you." Still, she did not move. Her fear was deep. She pressed her small hands against her chest as if to shield herself. Her breathing was fast, her body curled in defense. Aaron realized she had been hiding in the crate for days, maybe longer, starving and afraid. He thought quickly. She would not believe his words alone. She needed proof. Aaron reached into his pocket and pulled out a small clear bottle of water. He twisted off the cap, took a slow sip to show it was safe, then placed the bottle gently at the edge of the crate. He stepped back again, giving her space. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then her silver eyes flicked toward the bottle. She hesitated, shaking her head as if telling herself not to trust. But thirst was stronger than fear. Slowly, very slowly, she crawled forward and touched the bottle. Her fingers trembled. She sniffed the opening, then tipped it and took a quick sip. Her face changed. Relief washed over her features. She drank more, small careful gulps, until the bottle was half empty. Then she lowered it, still watching Aaron with sharp caution. Aaron gave her a gentle nod. "See," he said softly. Safe. The girl pulled back, hugging the bottle to her chest as if it were a treasure. Her voice came again, faint and uncertain. You, not, Eve? No, Aaron answered firmly. Not Eve? Help. She studied him in silence. The room was quiet except for the hum of the power lines above. Aaron could feel her eyes measuring him, searching for signs of danger. At last, she spoke one clear word. Luma. It was her name. Aaron repeated it softly. Luma. Her lips trembled. She nodded once. For the first time, her body seemed less tense. She was still afraid, but not as much as before. Aaron did not press her. He knew trust could not be forced. He stood slowly and moved back toward the door. I will bring food, he said, speaking slowly and simply. He pointed to himself, then to the hallway. I go. I come back. Luma hugged the bottle tighter. She looked at him with uncertainty but did not try to stop him. Aaron walked out of the storage bay, leaving the crate open behind him. As he moved through the empty corridors, Aaron's thoughts raced. Who was she? How had she ended up in a damaged crate on his outpost? What kind of world taught her that humans ate smaller beings? He had no answers, only questions. But one thing was clear. She was alone, lost, and terrified. If she truly believed humans were monsters, then she needed more than words to change her mind. She needed actions. When Aaron returned with a small container of nutrient biscuits, he found her still in the crate, sitting cross-legged with the bottle in her arms. Her eyes flicked to the food, then back to him. He placed the biscuits on the floor, slid them gently closer, and stepped back again. Luma sniffed the air, then reached out carefully. She broke off a tiny piece, chewed, and waited. When no harm came, she ate more. Aaron watched quietly. A faint sense of relief filled his chest. She was eating. She was trusting, little by little. And as he stood there, he realized this encounter had changed everything. The outpost no longer felt silent or empty. For the first time in many years, Aaron was not alone. The morning on the outpost was silent, just like every other day, but Aaron's mind was no longer calm. He could not stop thinking about the tiny alien girl he had found in the crate. Her silver eyes, her trembling hands, and her frightened words stayed with him. She believed he would eat her. That thought felt strange to him, almost painful. Why would her people believe such a thing about humans? When Aaron returned to the storage bay, he saw that Luma had crawled out of the crate. She was sitting on the floor near the empty bottle of water and the crumbs of the food he had given her. But the moment she noticed his footsteps, she tensed. Her small shoulders lifted, and her eyes grew wide. She looked like she was ready to run back into hiding. Aaron stopped a few steps away. He raised his hands again to show he was not a threat. It's me, he said gently. Aaron. He pointed to himself. Then he pointed to her. Luma. She blinked. Her lips pressed tightly together. She did not answer, but she did not run either. Aaron tried to smile, though it felt strange on his face. He was not used to smiling much. I bring more food, he said. From his pocket, he pulled out a small packet of fruit cubes. He placed it on the floor and pushed it closer. Luma's eyes followed the packet, but her body stayed tense. She whispered in her broken words. Human, eat, small. Aaron shook his head firmly. No. Not Eve. Not hurt. He tapped his chest. Friend. Her silver eyes narrowed. She hugged her knees to her chest, rocking slightly. It was clear her fear was not just about hunger or thirst. It was deep inside her, like a story told many times. A story that had grown into truth in her mind. Aaron sat down cross-legged on the floor, making himself smaller. He leaned his back against the wall and rested his hands on his knees. He did not move closer. Instead, he stayed quiet. Minutes passed. Luma shifted uncomfortably, watching him with suspicion. She opened the food packet, sniffed it, and took a small bite. She chewed slowly, keeping her eyes locked on him as if expecting him to attack at any moment. Aaron did nothing. He simply stayed where he was, letting her eat. Finally, after finishing the fruit, she whispered again. Why, you not eat me? Aaron almost laughed, though not out of joy. He laughed because the question was so sad. He shook his head and spoke softly. Because you are not food. You are alive. You are, person. He pointed to her, then to himself. You, me, people. Not food. Luma tilted her head slightly, as if his words confused her. Her small fingers played with the empty packet. She spoke slowly, her words broken but clear enough. My people say, humans big, humans hungry, humans take, eat. Aaron sighed. So that was it? Stories. Rumors. Maybe lies passed down for generations. She had been raised to fear him, raised to believe that humans were monsters. No wonder she shook whenever he moved. He decided not to argue. He knew that words alone could not erase a lifetime of fear. He needed to show her through action. The next day, he returned with another bottle of water and a small blanket. The outpost nights grew cold, and the little alien had no cover. He placed the blanket near her without forcing it. She stared at it, then at him, then back at the blanket. At last, she touched it with her small hands. The fabric looked large and heavy on her tiny frame, but she wrapped herself in it and let out a quiet sigh. Aaron felt a small warmth in his chest. She was accepting small pieces of his kindness. That was progress. But even with these moments, her fear did not disappear. Whenever Aaron stood too quickly, she flinched. When he picked up a tool or carried a piece of metal, she shrank back, her eyes wide. She always kept space between them. One evening, as Aaron was repairing a power unit in the corner of the bay, Luma spoke again. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. Why, you help? Aaron looked up from his work. Because you need it, he said simply. You are alone. You are cold. You are hungry. I help. She frowned as if the idea confused her. But, human get nothing. Why? Aaron thought for a moment. Why was he helping? He could have ignored the crate, could have reported her to the central station, could have sent her away. But he had not. Maybe because she was so small and afraid. Maybe because he knew what loneliness felt like. He finally said, because it is right. Luma studied him, her silver eyes unblinking. She did not answer, but something in her expression softened, just a little. Over the next days, Aaron noticed she began to test her courage. She would step closer when taking food. She would sit outside the crate rather than deep inside it. She even began to watch him work on machines, her head tilted with curiosity. But the fear was still there. Once, when Aaron accidentally dropped a tool, the sound made her jump and cry out. She scrambled back into the crate, shaking. Erin quickly put the tool aside and waited, giving her time to calm down. When she finally peeked out again, her eyes were full of guilt, as if she thought she had done something wrong. Erin only shook his head gently. "It is all right," he said. "Safe." Each small step felt like a long journey. But he did not rush her. Trust, he knew, could not be demanded. It had to be earned, one quiet moment at a time. As the days stretched on, Erin began to feel something shift inside him. The outpost, once empty and lifeless, now felt alive. The sound of her small footsteps, the sight of her silver eyes watching him, the way she whispered his name once, very softly, these things made the cold halls warmer. Still, he knew the truth. She was afraid. Deep down, she still believed he might hurt her. And until that fear was broken, she would never truly trust him. Erin looked at her one night as she curled under the blanket near the crate. He made a quiet promise to himself. He would prove to her that humans were not the monsters she believed. He would protect her, no matter what. And perhaps, in time, she would believe it too. The night on the outpost was colder than usual. The wind outside howled across the metal walls, and the power lights flickered slightly. Erin pulled his coat tighter as he finished his last round of checks. He had lived on the outpost long enough to know the weather patterns. Some nights brought freezing air from the nearby gas giant, and without proper heat, it could be dangerous. As he walked back to the storage bay, his thoughts went again to the small alien girl. Luma. She had grown a little braver, but fear still lived inside her. Every time he moved too fast or spoke too loudly, she flinched. He wondered how he could ever convince her that she was safe. When Erin entered the bay, he saw her curled up near the crate. She had the blanket he had given her wrapped tightly around her small body, but her shoulders shook. Her silver eyes peeked out, glowing faintly in the dark, and he could hear her teeth chattering. Erin felt it twist in his chest. The blanket was not enough. She was too small, too fragile for the cold. He pulled off his heavy jacket and stepped closer. He did not place it on her directly, because he knew sudden closeness would frighten her. Instead, he laid the jacket gently on the floor in front of her. "Warm," he said softly. He pointed to the jacket, then stepped back. Luma stared at it. She hesitated, her small fingers clutching the blanket tighter. Her eyes darted between the jacket and Erin. For a moment, she seemed torn. Her fear whispered to her that it might be a trap. But the cold was stronger. Slowly, she crawled forward and touched the thick fabric. She sniffed it, then pulled it around herself. The jacket was so large it covered her almost completely, like a tent. Only her face and glowing eyes peeked out. She let out a small sigh of relief. For the first time, her body stopped shaking. Erin smiled faintly. He moved to the far wall and sat down, giving her space. He leaned his head back and closed his eyes, listening to the hum of the machines. For a while, silence filled the bay. Then, a small sound broke it. "Why?" Luma's voice was soft, uncertain. Erin opened his eyes. "Why what?" "Why, give," she asked, tugging at the jacket. "Because you are cold," Erin answered simply. Her brow furrowed. She looked at him as though trying to see through his words. "But, human, not need small one." Erin chuckled lightly, shaking his head. "Maybe not. But small one need human. So I help." She stared at him for a long time, her silver eyes wide and thoughtful. Finally, she whispered, almost too quiet to hear. "Thank you." It was the first time she had said those words to him. The next morning, Aaron woke to find Luma sitting outside the crate, watching him with cautious curiosity. She no longer hid inside when he entered the bay. Instead, she stayed close to the jacket, her little hands stroking the fabric as if it was proof that humans could give, not only take. Aaron decided to show her more. He picked up a small tool and a broken panel from the power unit. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, he began to repair it. Luma tilted her head, her glowing eyes following every movement. "See," he said, lifting the tool. "Fix. Not break." She blinked. "Fix," she repeated slowly, testing the word. Aaron smiled. "Yes. Fix." She crawled a little closer, still keeping space between them, and pointed to the panel. "Fix, good." "Yes. Fix good," Aaron said. "Broken is bad. Fix makes strong." She nodded slowly as if understanding. Then she looked down at her tiny hands. Her fingers glowed faintly, the light tracing patterns along her skin. She held them up shyly, almost as if she was ashamed. Aaron tilted his head. "What is that?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then whispered. "Crystal light. My people use small power." She pressed her fingers together, and a faint spark of energy flickered. It was weak, but beautiful. Aaron's eyes widened. "That is amazing," he said. "Very good." Luma's cheeks flushed faintly. She lowered her hands, embarrassed, but a tiny smile touched her lips. It was the first time Aaron had seen her smile. That night, the cold returned. Aaron left his jacket near her again, and she wrapped herself in it without hesitation. She no longer looked at it as a trap. She accepted it as a gift. As she settled, she whispered again. "You, not monster." Aaron shook his head. "No. Not monster." Her eyes softened. "Stories say humans cruel. Say humans take. Say humans eat small ones." Aaron sighed. "Stories can be wrong." Luma looked at him for a long time. Then she pulled the jacket tighter and whispered a single word. "Safe." The word struck him deeply. Safe. She was beginning to believe it. Aaron leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes. The outpost was still cold, still quiet, but it no longer felt empty. A tiny alien girl who once feared he would eat her was now wrapped in his jacket, calling herself safe in his presence. It was a small step, but it was proof of kindness. And kindness, Aaron knew, was stronger than fear. As he drifted toward sleep, one thought filled his mind. Perhaps this unexpected meeting was not just chance. Perhaps it was the beginning of something greater, something that could change the stories her people told. And deep inside, Luma thought the same. The outpost had always been quiet. Aaron was used to the silence, the steady hum of machines, and the low wind brushing across the metal walls. But on the fourth night after he found Luma, the silence broke. It began with a sharp alarm from the control panel. A red light blinked above the door, and the sound of warning filled the bay. Aaron rushed to the panel and checked the scanner. His heart sank. Several objects were moving toward the outpost from the east ridge. The computer marked them with flashing icons. Scavenger drones. Aaron knew them well. They were machines built long ago by unknown hands, now wandering the empty sectors of space. They hunted for energy and living creatures, stripping anything they found for parts. He had fought them once before. They were fast, ruthless, and dangerous. He turned quickly toward Luma. She was crouched near the crate, clutching the jacket around her small frame. Her glowing silver eyes were wide with confusion. "What noise?" she asked in her broken words. "Danger," Aaron said firmly. He pointed toward the door, then motioned for her to hide. "Stay. Hide." But Luma shook her head. "What come?" "Drones," Aaron answered. "Bad machines." She trembled at the word. It seemed she knew what drones were. Her small hands glowed faintly as she whispered, "They take life." Aaron nodded grimly. "Yes. They take." He grabbed a heavy wrench from the tool rack and strapped a cutting torch to his belt. They were not weapons, but they were the best he had. He checked the power on the outer gates and locked them down, but he knew the drones would not stop. They would cut through metal until they found what they wanted. The alarm grew louder as the drones approached. Outside, Aaron could hear the faint buzz of their engines. The sound grew sharper, closer, like a swarm of angry insects. Luma crouched lower, clutching the jacket. Her whole body shook. "They come," she whispered. Aaron forced his voice to stay calm. "I stopped them." He knew it would not be easy. One drone was difficult enough, but the scanner showed at least 3. They had strong claws, cutting beams, and fast speed. Aaron's heart pounded, but he could not show fear. Not in front of her. The first strike came fast. Metal screeched as one drone slammed against the outer gate. Sparks flew as its claws scraped the surface. Another drone joined in, hammering with sharp metallic limbs. The walls shook under the impact. Aaron gripped his wrench tightly. He glanced back at Luma. She was breathing fast, her silver eyes glowing brighter in the dark. "Stay," he repeated. "Safe." She bit her lip but nodded faintly. With a deep breath, Aaron opened the side hatch and stepped into the narrow service tunnel. The sound of engines roared around him. Shadows moved above the ridge. The drones were black and sharp-edged, with glowing red eyes and long steel arms. They circled like hunters smelling prey. One spotted him and darted forward. Its claws snapped, sparking against the tunnel wall. Aaron swung his wrench hard, striking the machine's head. The impact sent it crashing against the floor, but it rose again, buzzing angrily. Aaron lit the torch and blasted a bright flame. The drone screeched as the fire cut into its arm, melting the metal. Sparks exploded, and the machine fell back, thrashing. Aaron swung the wrench again, crushing its core until it stopped moving. But 2 more drones dropped from above, their red eyes glowing. Aaron backed into the bay, slamming the door shut behind him. "They come," he warned. His chest heaved with breath. Luma's eyes widened. She pressed her glowing hands together, and small sparks of energy flickered. Aaron noticed it, even through his fear. She had some kind of power, though weak. "Hide," he urged again. But she shook her head. "Help," she whispered. Before he could stop her, the drones tore through the outer wall. Metal split apart with a shower of sparks, and the machines forced their way inside. Their claws scraped the floor, and their red eyes locked onto the small figure of Luma. Aaron stepped in front of her, gripping the wrench with both hands. "Not her," he growled. The first drone lunged. Aaron swung with all his strength, striking its head. The machine staggered but did not fall. Another slashed its claw, cutting across his sleeve. The fabric tore, but Aaron held his ground. Then a sudden flash filled the bay. Luma's small crystal light burst from her hands. The glow shot forward, striking one drone in the chest. Sparks exploded as the machine shuddered, its red eyes flickering before it collapsed. Aaron blinked in surprise. He turned to look at her. Luma stood trembling, her hands glowing brightly, her silver eyes fierce. She had used her power to fight. The second drone screeched and lunged at her. Aaron swung again, smashing its arm, and together they forced it back. He hit it with the torch, melting through its chest until it fell silent. The last drone hesitated, its red eyes flickering as it scanned both of them. Then it retreated, buzzing into the night sky. The sound of its engine faded into the distance. The bay grew quiet again. Smoke rose from the broken walls, and sparks still flickered from the dead machines. Aaron dropped his wrench, his hands shaking. He turned to Luma. She stood in the middle of the floor, her small body trembling, her hands glowing faintly. Her breathing was fast, but her eyes were steady. She looked up at Aaron and whispered, help. Aaron knelt down, meeting her gaze. He placed a hand over his chest. Yes. You helped. We did it together. For the first time, Luma did not flinch when he moved. Instead, she gave a small nod. Her fear was still there, but something new had grown alongside it. Trust. That night, as Aaron repaired the walls and Luma curled up in his jacket again, both of them knew the truth. The danger had shown them something important. She was not just a frightened alien girl. She was strong in her own way. And Aaron was not just a human she feared. He was her protector, and now, her partner. The outpost was no longer just a quiet place. It was a place where fear had met kindness, and where two very different beings had fought side by side. And deep inside, both of them understood. The story between humans and her people might not be the same after this. The remains of the drones still lay scattered across the floor of the bay. Bits of broken metal sparked faintly, the smell of burnt wires heavy in the air. Aaron sat on a crate, his arms aching from the fight. His jacket sleeve was torn, and his hands were covered in dust and scratches. Across from him, Luma sat with the jacket wrapped tightly around her small body. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and her little hands still shimmered with traces of energy. She looked tired, but she also looked proud. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Aaron finally broke the silence. You were brave. Luma blinked at him. Brave? She asked softly, testing the word. Yes, Aaron said. You fought. You helped me. That is brave. Her lips trembled. She lowered her gaze, as if unsure whether to believe his words. Small. Small ones run. Not fight. Aaron shook his head. Not true. Small can fight too. Small can be strong. Luma tilted her head. A faint smile touched her lips. It was small and shy, but it was real. The next morning, Aaron began to clean the bay. The walls were damaged where the drones had forced their way in. He carried sheets of metal to cover the holes and worked with his tools to weld them into place. Normally, he worked alone. But now he felt eyes watching him. When he turned, he saw Luma standing a few steps away, her head tilted, her hands folded nervously. Want to help, she said, her voice uncertain. Aaron raised his brows. Help. With this. She nodded quickly. I can light. Small power. Fix too. Aaron thought for a moment. Her crystal light had destroyed a drone, so maybe she could use it carefully for repairs. He placed a broken panel on the floor and pointed. Try, he said. Luma crouched down, placing her tiny hands on the panel. Her silver eyes glowed brighter as she focused. Sparks of energy flowed from her fingertips, melting the edges of the metal. It was not perfect, but it fused the broken piece together. Aaron's eyes widened. Good, he said. Very good. Luma looked up at him, her face glowing with pride. Fix, she repeated. Yes. Fix, Aaron said with a smile. From that moment, they began to work together. Aaron used his tools for heavy repairs, while Luma used her small crystal light for delicate parts. She could reach narrow places his hands could not, and her energy was useful for fusing wires. It was slow at first, but over time, they found a rhythm. Aaron would pass her pieces, and she would use her light. She would point out spots he missed, and he would adjust them. Neither needed many words. Their actions spoke enough. Each day, the outpost grew stronger. And with each repair, the distance between them grew smaller. One evening, after hours of work, Aaron sat against the wall, tired but satisfied. Luma sat nearby, nibbling on a fruit cube he had given her. She looked at him carefully, her silver eyes calm instead of afraid. Why, you fight for me? She asked suddenly. Aaron looked at her. Because you are my friend, he said simply. Luma's eyes widened. Friend. Yes. Friend, Aaron repeated. Someone you care about. Someone you protect. She hugged the jacket closer. Her voice was soft. Friend, she whispered, as if testing the sound on her tongue. Then she smiled, small but certain. You, friend. Aaron felt warmth spread through his chest. The little alien girl who once feared he would eat her now called him her friend. It was a moment he would not forget. But peace never lasted long on the edge of space. The following night, the scanners beeped again. This time, more signals appeared. 4 drones, approaching quickly. Aaron's jaw tightened. The outpost was stronger now, but the threat was greater too. He grabbed his wrench and torch, ready for another fight. He looked at Luma. Stay back, he said firmly. But Luma shook her head. No. Fight with friend. Aaron hesitated. He wanted to keep her safe. Yet he remembered how her crystal light had saved them before. She was not helpless. She wanted to fight, not hide. Finally, he nodded. All right. But stay close. The attack came fast. The drones smashed against the walls, trying to force their way inside. Aaron swung his wrench, knocking one back, while Luma sent a sharp beam of light at another. Sparks flew as the machine staggered, its claws scraping the floor. Left, Aaron called, pointing. Luma darted to the side and fired her light again. The beam struck true, disabling the drone's eye. Aaron finished it with a heavy swing, crushing its core. Another drone lunged at Aaron, knocking him to the ground. Its claws scraped dangerously close to his face. Luma screamed and sent a burst of energy at the drone's back. The machine jerked, giving Aaron the chance to shove it off and strike hard with his wrench. Together, they fought. Aaron's strength and tools struck the heavy blows, while Luma's light cut through weak spots. She was fast, slipping between machines where Aaron could not. He protected her from claws, and she protected him from strikes he could not see. It was teamwork neither had planned, but it worked. At last, the final drone fell, its body sparking on the floor. The bay was filled with smoke and the sound of their heavy breathing. Aaron dropped his wrench, leaning against the wall. His arms shook with exhaustion. Luma stumbled toward him, her small body trembling. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "We win," she whispered. Aaron nodded, a tired smile on his face. "Yes. We win." She leaned against his arm, her tiny frame warm under the oversized jacket. For the first time, she did not pull away from his closeness. That night, as they sat together in the quiet, Aaron realized something important. He was no longer just protecting her. They were protecting each other. The small alien girl who once believed humans were monsters was now his partner in battle. And in her silver eyes, he could see it clearly. She no longer saw him as a threat. She saw him as a friend, and maybe even as family. The unexpected teamwork had changed them both. The outpost felt different after the second battle. Broken drones lay piled outside the walls, silent reminders of the fight. Aaron had cleaned most of the damage, welding metal plates to cover holes and checking the power lines again. His body was tired, but his spirit was lighter. Inside the bay, Luma followed him more closely than before. She no longer kept her distance. Instead, she walked a few steps behind, watching what he did. Sometimes she even tried to copy his movements, pretending to swing a small wrench as he repaired pipes. It made Aaron smile quietly. At night, they no longer sat far apart. Luma curled up near him, still wrapped in his large jacket. The fear in her silver eyes had softened. Now, when she looked at him, there was something else shining there. Curiosity. Respect. Even trust. One evening, while Aaron checked the scanner for more signals, Luma approached slowly. She held something in her small hands, glowing faintly in the dim light. "Aaron," she said softly. He turned, surprised. She rarely spoke his name, but when she did, it always felt special. "Yes, Luma." She stepped closer, her trembling hands opening to reveal a small crystal. It pulsed gently, as if alive. The glow matched the lines on her skin. Aaron's eyes widened. "What is that?" Luma took a deep breath, her words broken but careful. "Hard crystal. My people carry power, life. Very important." Aaron leaned closer, trying to understand. "And you carry this?" She nodded. "Yes. Each one has. Protect always." Her voice grew quieter, almost like a whisper. "I give to friend." Aaron froze. "To me." Luma nodded again. She extended the crystal toward him with both hands. Her eyes were wide but steady. "Trust." For a moment, Aaron could not speak. He understood the weight of her gesture. This was not just a stone. It was a part of her people, something sacred. For her to give it meant more than words could explain. He shook his head gently. "Luma, I cannot take this. It is too important." But she pushed it closer, her voice firm despite her size. "I give. You keep. Means safe." Aaron slowly reached out and accepted the crystal. It was warm in his palm, pulsing with faint energy. He looked at it, then back at Luma. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time, She did not look afraid. "I will guard it," Aaron said quietly. "I will guard you." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Friend." Aaron felt a strange warmth spread in his chest. In that moment, the distance between human and alien disappeared. They were no longer two strangers. They were bound by trust. Over the next days, Luma grew braver. She no longer hid when he carried tools. She no longer flinched at sudden sounds. Instead, she began to ask questions, her broken words growing clearer. "What this?" she asked, pointing at a power coil. Aaron explained, showing her how it stored energy. "What this?" she asked again, tapping on a welding torch. He showed her how it worked, though he warned her it was dangerous. Sometimes, she even tried to repeat his words. "Coil," she would say carefully. "Torch." Her learning made Aaron proud. He realized she was not just surviving anymore. She was growing. One afternoon, as they sat together eating fruit cubes, Luma spoke suddenly. "Stories, wrong." Aaron turned to her. "What do you mean?" She looked at him seriously. "My people say humans cruel. Say humans eat small ones. But not true." She touched his arm gently with her tiny hand. "You kind. You protect." Aaron swallowed hard. He had wanted her to see that from the beginning, but hearing her say it filled him with relief. "Thank you, Luma," he said softly. Her smile widened. "I tell people. Tell truth." Aaron blinked. "You mean, you want to return to your people?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. They must know. Not all humans bad." Aaron thought about it. He had grown used to her presence, her quiet voice, her silver eyes watching him. The idea of her leaving filled him with sadness, but he also knew she was right. She could change the stories her people told. She could show them humans were not monsters. He sighed. "Then we will find a way. I will help you go home." Luma's eyes shone with hope. She hugged the jacket tighter around herself. "Friend, help." That night, as the stars glimmered outside the outpost, Aaron sat by the control panel, turning the heart crystal in his hand. It pulsed warmly, as if alive. He knew it was more than a gift. It was a promise. When he looked over at Luma, curled up peacefully in his jacket, he realized something else. He was no longer just living on the outpost. He was no longer alone in the silence. He had a purpose now. Protecting her, guiding her, and helping her return to her people with the truth. And deep inside, he felt certain of one thing. The bond they had built, through fear and kindness, through danger and trust, would never be broken. The shift had already begun. The days after the battle passed more quietly. The outpost still carried scars from the drones, but the danger seemed far away now. Aaron worked on repairs, and Luma stayed close, no longer hiding in shadows. Where there had once been silence, now there was soft conversation, laughter, and the glow of trust. But deep inside, both knew this peace would not last. Luma wanted to return to her people. She wanted to tell them the truth about humans. And Aaron knew it was the right choice. One morning, Luma stood by the control panel, her silver eyes fixed on the blinking lights of the star map. "Home," she said softly. "I must go." Aaron looked at her for a long time. He had grown used to her presence, the way she curled in his jacket, the way her small voice filled the cold halls. The thought of her leaving made the outpost feel empty again. But he also knew she did not belong here. He nodded slowly. Yes. We will find the way. Using the panel, Aaron scanned the surrounding systems. It took hours, but finally he found a signal that matched the direction Luma pointed to. A cluster of stars far across the ridge. It was far, but not unreachable. I can guide you, he said. A transport ship comes here next week. I can send you with it? Luma's eyes widened. You not come? Aaron hesitated. He had never left the outpost in years. This place was his duty, his life. But when he looked at her, he felt a pull in his heart. He wanted to see her safe, wanted to see her people with his own eyes. Maybe I will, he said softly. That evening, they sat together on the roof of the bay, watching the stars. The air was cold, but Luma had his jacket wrapped around her small frame. She pointed up at the sky. So many, she whispered. Yes, Aaron said. And each star has a story? Luma smiled faintly. I tell my people new story. Story of human who protect. Human who not eat small one. Human who friend. Aaron chuckled quietly. That will be a good story. The days passed quickly as they prepared. Aaron repaired a small signal beacon to guide the transport ship. Luma practiced her words, trying to make them clearer. Friend, protect, kind, she repeated often, as if carving them into her memory. At night, she sometimes placed her tiny hand on the crystal he carried. It glowed warmly in his palm, a reminder of their bond. On the morning of the seventh day, the transport ship appeared in the sky. Its engines roared as it descended toward the outpost. Aaron and Luma stood together by the landing pad, the wind whipping around them. The ship's ramp lowered, and the pilot stepped out, surprised to see Aaron waiting with a small alien girl at his side. This is Luma, Aaron explained. She needs passage to her people. The pilot nodded, though his eyes lingered on the girl with curiosity. Far sector, but possible, he said. Luma clutched Aaron's sleeve tightly. Her silver eyes were wide, not with fear, but with sadness. You come, she asked again, her voice trembling. Aaron knelt down, meeting her gaze. This is your journey, he said gently. You must tell your people the truth. But I will always be with you, here. He touched the crystal on his chest. We are connected. Tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. She pressed the crystal with her tiny hand, then whispered, Friend forever. Aaron nodded, his throat tight. Friend forever. The pilot motioned for her to board. Luma hesitated, still holding onto Aaron's sleeve. Then she slowly let go and walked up the ramp, her small figure glowing faintly in the ship's light. Aaron stood on the landing pad, watching as the ramp closed and the engines roared to life. The ship lifted into the sky, climbing higher and higher until it became a bright star among many. Silence returned to the outpost. The wind swept across the metal walls, and the machines hummed softly. Aaron stood there for a long time, his jacket loose around his shoulders, the crystal warm in his hand. The outpost felt empty again, but not the same kind of empty as before. This time, it was filled with memories of silver eyes, small hands, and the sound of a voice learning to say the word friend. Aaron turned back toward the bay, a faint smile on his face. He was alone, but not lonely. Somewhere out there, Luma was telling a new story. A story of a human who was not a monster, but a protector. A story that could change how her people saw his kind forever. And perhaps, one day, their paths would cross again. Until then, he would guard the outpost, carry the crystal, and keep the bond alive. For in the vast cold of space, kindness had built a bridge between two worlds. And that bridge would never break.